Sunrise on the Reaping, Chapter 13. Effie, cries Proserpina, flinging herself into the newcomer's arms. Effie pats her back. Well, I'm not going to let my baby sister, or her friends, fail because some slacker didn't do his job. All the prep teams break into cheers or tears or both as they crowd around her. She accepts the adulation but then gets serious. Listen everybody. There is something bigger than you and me happening here. As we all know, the Hunger Games are a sacred ceremony of remembrance for the dark days. A lot of people lost their lives to guarantee peace and prosperity for our nation. And this is our chance, no, it is our duty, to honor them. Well, she swallowed the capital propaganda hook and took the line and sinker with it, but at least she's brought us some decent footwear. She begins unzipping bags. When you called Prosy at first, I didn't know what to do, and then I thought, Great Aunt Messalina. Great Aunt Messalina, crows Proserpina. She never throws anything out. A lot of it's really old, but fortunately all the war era styles are back in fashion, explains Effie. She holds up a black lace dress with matching gloves. And there's loads of black because there were so many funerals. You are brilliant, Effie, trinket, sputters Vitus. I confess to having a moment, says Effie. Don't worry boys, Great Uncle Silius was no slouch in the threads department either. He certainly wasn't, and even better, he seemed to be roughly the same size as Wyatt and me with a few adjustments. We find a tuxedo for Wyatt and a three-piece suit with a rakish vest embroidered with cocktail glasses for me. Just the thing for a rascal. Or a bootlegger. By the time I've added a roomy pair of patent leather shoes and 8-ball cuff links on my white silk shirt, I look slick as a whistle. Clothes make the man, says Effie with satisfaction, giving me an approving pat on the shoulder. At least the trinkets aren't mean, just clueless, which makes for a big improvement over Drusilla and Magno. The girls look sensational too, with Lulu in the black lace dress, expertly pinned up to fit her, and Maisali in an off-the-shoulder velvet gown, a boa and the black lace gloves. I know we're being prettied up for slaughter, but at least we might have some sponsors now. Who could believe they're from District 12? It was really nice of your great aunt to let you borrow everything, says Vitus. Well, she owes us after all the disgrace she brought to the name of Trinket. We'll be recovering from that for years, Effie says, crinkling her brow. If even only half the stories are true. Vitus puts a consoling arm around her and says, You don't pick your ancestors. Then his voice drops to a shamed whisper. My grandfather was a rebel sympathizer. You win, concedes Effie. But look at you now. When Drusilla swings out of the kitchen, she does a double take at our outfits. What happened here? My sister, beams Proserpina, nudging Effie forward. Oh, it was a privilege to dress them for Panem, says Effie modestly. Drusilla's face twists through a range of expressions. Confusion, relief, admiration, with bitterness ultimately winning. These cannot be credited to Magno. You. She grabs Effie by the arm. You're coming with us and I'm telling everyone you're responsible. But I don't even have a backstage pass, objects Effie. That at least I can remedy. Drusilla waves us toward the door. Come on you lot, let's try to make it to at least one event on time. Proserpina shoves a makeup box into Effie's hands. Touch-ups. I'm on it, promises Effie. For everybody. She gives Lulu, who's baring her teeth, a worried look. Maybe a lighter shade of lipstick for you. And tone down the blush, says Maisali. Exactly, agrees Effie. For a moment, they're just two girls on a mission to beautify the world. Effie holds up a compact for her opinion. I'm thinking maybe a peach? Much better. Hold on. Effie reaches over and removes a broken feather from Maisali's boa. There. You're perfect. Is my mascara okay? Yes, but I can see it'd be a problem with those long lashes of yours. Effie digs in the makeup box and hands her a little pad. Take this in case it smudges. Drusilla starts to haul Effie to the elevator, sending the makeup box to the floor. It cracks open and tubes of color roll across the burnt orange carpet. I lean over and collect them, returning it all to Effie, who looks slightly surprised. Thank you, Haymitch, she says. That was very considerate, especially given your circumstances. Well, thank you for bringing us some dress-up clothes. You deserve to look beautiful tonight, Effie replies. And I think you're all being very brave. We don't have much choice, but it's nice to have someone recognize it. In the van, inspired by Great Uncle Silius's taste in fashion, I decide to double down on the bootlegger angle. I imagine brewing up illegal booze falls into the category of what the capital would consider naughty, not dangerous. Judging by the opening ceremony crowd, most of these folks drink like fish, so there should be a fair amount of sympathy for a kid who goes outside the law to keep his district pickled. Anyway, it's the best rascally angle I can come up with, and it's founded in truth. I don't want to get Hattie in any trouble though, so I decide to pretend it's something I do on my own. I'm starting to get antsy about the breaking the arena plan, given that I still don't know the timeline or how the explosives are being smuggled in. Mags and Wyrus were allowed to accompany Drusilla, so BT should be with his tributes tonight too. The interviews are televised from an auditorium that seats a couple thousand people. Drusilla tells us there won't be a delay, since there's no potential for an uprising in the Capitol audience, so don't mess up and expect her to cover for us. That's rich. After she gets the official lineup, she slips off to have a word with Caesar Flickerman so he can know how to approach our interviews. As she walks away, she mutters, "Shrew, calculator, lunatic, rascal." We're taken to a waiting room backstage called the Green Room, although it's painted white. It's already crowded with mentors, escorts, and stylists hovering around their tributes, who are all polished up and dressed in chic evening wear in their district's signature color. Even District 1, who wore ball gowns and suits to the parade, have upped their game, and their snot-green ensembles with flowing trains and plumed coattails require 3 times the space of any other district. Effie eyes them critically and whispers, "Thank goodness your color is black. Can you imagine trying to outfit everyone in Peridot?" That was a flash in the pan. Honestly, 12 comes off a lot classier and somehow potentially deadlier. Maybe I'm projecting. My jacket and vest have hidden compartments and my belt some extra loops that Effie told me were for decorative weapons. HM decorative. And Effie quickly ruled out the first shirt I tried on because of something that looked suspiciously like a blood stain that hadn't come out in the wash. I can't help wondering if what Great Aunt Messalina and her husband did to disgrace the family was connected to some lifeless bodies. Makes me feel a little more dangerous slipping into their skins tonight. BT catches my eye from a cluster of electric blue and gives a quick nod toward the buffet. Drusilla's busy making sure everybody knows Effie did our clothes, so I'm able to plead thirst and make a beeline for the punch bowl. The table's spread with delicacies, like candy high-heeled shoes and caviar and seashells and miniature pigs made of ham salad. I don't recognize half the food, but I follow a lady's example and smear a dollop of goat cheese on a square of peanut brittle. Surprisingly good. I'm ladling myself some punch when BT sidles up beside me. He picks up a large pair of silver tweezers and begins to meticulously choose tiny vegetables from an arrangement shaped like a bunch of flowers. It's ridiculous. Those work better than your fingers? I ask. Trying not to draw attention to myself, he says quietly. I glance around and see several peacekeepers have their eyes on us. A couple begin to close in when there's a commotion at the door. Magno Stift lurches into the room, holding a cage of reptiles above his head and shouting, "The party animals are here." As the peacekeepers redirect toward my stylist, BT plucks off a minuscule radish and speaks rapidly under his breath. Head north. Amper will do the same after he has the explosive. Do your best to locate a mutt portal by tracking returning mutts after an attack. After you and Ampert meet up, take one to access Sub-A where the tank is located. We've replaced the black cord in Ampert's token with fuse, the blasting caps hidden in the weave. I take a deep pull on my punch, checking out Ampert's token over the rim of the cup. It's indistinguishable from the one Mesali made, with no sign of the blasting cap in the braided cord. BT doesn't say where it came from, but the rebels must have someone on the inside who smuggled it through security and swapped it for the original. All 4 of District 9's sunflowers are now composed of explosive, he adds. But their sunflowers are hard. Kernus shattered on the floor. Yes, these are coated with a shellac. Wet them with water and rub them between your palms. The friction will help dissolve the shellac and leave the explosive malleable. Does 9 know the plan? I ask. They do not. Ampert will scavenge one from their persons. From a dead body, he means? Probably at the bloodbath. Or more if he can get them. It never hurts to have a spare. And if Ampert fails to show, BT's voice breaks slightly on this last bit. We both know why Ampert might not be able to reach me. For a moment he examines a pea-sized tomato under his glasses. We've also replaced the... A flutter of chiffon at my elbow alerts me to the arrival of all 4 District 6 doves, who shimmer in their iridescent gray finery. BT moves down to a meatball pyramid without further clarifications, a goodbye or a good luck. Welly whispers, Ampert says when we get to the arena, we're supposed to band together as soon as possible. Is that by design? Probably. If Ampert bands with the others, he'll have access to the tributes from 9 when they die. Meanwhile, I have my own mission which does not involve protecting this flock. That sounds like a good plan, I agree. He says maybe some of you bigger tributes can grab weapons first. Well, he tells me. I'll give it a shot. But I will not be able to look after them in the arena. I will have to devote my abilities to blowing up the tank or die trying. Listen, I'm going to be a real jerk in my interview. It's something my team worked up, but I will never hurt you, okay? Or any of the newcomers. That's a promise. We know that, says Welly, eyes full of trust. Too much trust. I need to distance myself from them for the good of everybody. There's another thing though, I say. You saw my score that I only got a 1. The game makers may be targeting me. It's dangerous for any of you to be around me. So I'm thinking of going it alone. Welly's face falls. But they're targeting all of us. We need you. You don't if I'm drawing packs of mutts or being chased into the careers. You don't. And you all have to understand that. Tell the others, okay? Across the room, a glassy-eyed Magno has backed into a corner but managed to clear some space by freeing a 6-foot snake from the cage and waving it around. Where are my tributes? I need to dress them. People are shrieking, and the peacekeepers form a huddle to confer over their plan to subdue him. Drusilla looks overjoyed, shouting, "Take him down! Take him down!" But before the peacekeepers' tasers pulled can do the job, Lulu steps up, hands extended for the snake and says, "Mine." Magno grins, bypasses her hands, drapes the snake around her shoulders, then loops the tail end around her neck. You wear her like this. Lulu entwines her arm with the snake's neck so its head rests on the back of her hand and holds it up. Magno leans over and kisses the snake on the mouth. It's the very picture of madness, this damaged little girl and our debauched, drugged stylist. Wyatt goes to collect her, putting an arm around her to guide her back to the District 12 crew. The snake seems to have given Lulu a sense of power, and she walks by tributes 3 times her size, brandishing the snake and hissing. I rejoin my district just as the television at the end of the green room comes to life. On screen, an invisible hand writes a big curlicue 50 over a shot of the auditorium stage as a booming voice announces, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 50th Hunger Games night of interviews. And here's everybody's favorite host, Caesar Flickerman." Caesar descends from the ceiling perched on a crescent moon, stars shooting behind him. He's a young guy wearing a suit so dark blue it's almost black, embedded with tiny light bulbs that make it twinkle. The suit never changes, but every year he dyes his hair a different color, tonight a deep pine forest green, and paints his eyelids and lips the same color. Maybe you could make an argument for the hair and eyes, but green lips suggest a man in the process of decomposition. He just looks ghoulish. The gleam of his overly white teeth as he flashes the audience a knowing smile only reminds you that he's got a skull under all that glop. As he deftly dismounts the moon, he opens his arms and says, "Hello, Panem. Shall we get this party started?" The audience roars in approval. Here in the green room, a young game maker lines up Districts 1 and 2, reading out their order of appearance. They file out the door after her to wait in the wings. On screen, Caesar launches into a brief retrospective of the other 49 games, starting with the no-frills version of the early years directly after the war, when the tributes were thrown into an old, bombed-out sports arena with weapons and little else. I watch carefully when he talks about the 10th games being a turning point, as that was the year District 12 had a victor, but they only feature the introduction of betting, the sponsors, and the rickety drones that dropped food and water to the tributes. From this point on, the games evolved from pure punishment to unapologetic entertainment. The original sports venue was abandoned as the game makers began to use existing settings in the wild or bombed-out towns and such, introducing an assortment of mutts and a variety of weapons. The 25th games, the first quarter quell, proved particularly heinous, as the districts were forced to choose their own tributes rather than relying on the reaping. Another flicker man named Lucky hosted with commentary from a relic of a woman named Gall, who was credited with coining the phrase, "May the odds be ever in your favor" for the anniversary. That phrase has caught on as a way to wish someone good luck, but if you think about it, it's a sadistic thing to say to a tribute, given that survival's an impossibility for 23 of the 24 kids. For this first quell, the game makers had the tributes kick off the capital portion by riding chariots through the streets in district-flavored costumes. Rather than scout a location for the games, they built an arena for a single use. Also, the cornucopia made its first appearance, loaded with weapons and supplies, triggering a heated bloodbath when the opening gong sounded. For the last 24 years, they've unveiled a brand new arena each year based on a different environment or theme, from a desert to a frigid landscape to Wyrus's reflective puzzle, which they called the Nest of Mirrors. Caesar teases the audience about the second quarter quell arena. He's heard a rumor it puts all the previous arenas to shame. Can they imagine it? No, they can't. Will it be fabulous? Yes, it will. My stomach feels sick and I'm glad I don't have to go first. I'm also glad District 1 does. When Caesar introduces Silka, she strides on stage dragging 15 feet of a snot-green train behind her. Ugh. Just like a snail, comments Maisali loudly, getting a round of nervous laughter in the green room. What everybody's really thinking is about how Silka's over 6 feet tall without the heels and can throw an axe into a dummy's heart at 15 feet. And that is not something you can laugh off. Since there are so many of us this year, we're limited to 2-minute interviews, and after every 4 districts, there will be some sort of break that Caesar calls a palate cleanser. Silka wastes no time in bragging about her size, her strength, her axe handling, and her scoring at 10. She doesn't even bother mentioning her alliance with the careers, and when Caesar brings them up, she just says, "Sure, it helps to have someone to clear the field." Panache swaggers on stage next, stopping 3 different times to pose and flex his muscles for the audience. Panache from District 1. Caesar bellows. Then asks him, "So, Panache, in addition to your obvious assets, why should our audience back you?" "Because I'm the biggest, the beefiest, and the best." Panache hits another pose. "My word, it sounds like we should barbecue you," quips Caesar. "That's right. I'm all meat, little man," says Panache, giving Caesar a patronizing pat on the head. He's just so easy to loathe. You can see the cut landing with Caesar, but he lives for this stuff. "Even your brain?" he asks in wonder. The audience titters. Confusion crosses Panache's face, then anger at the teasing. "Not my brain. Obviously it's gray stuff." Caesar nods, straight-faced as if digesting this, while the audience cracks up. Panache begins to burn, and I remember the train window, which was only an innocent bystander. For a minute I think he might destroy Caesar, but he catches himself and just shouts at the audience, "What does it matter?" "Matter?" Caesar sputters. "I think brain matters quite a bit. The capital citizens lose it, and so do I, until I remember the joke's not just on Panache. It's on all of us stupid Claude District piglets. Animals for their entertainment. Expendable for their pleasure. Too dumb to deserve to live." Caesar settles the audience and tries to get back to the interview. "All in good fun, Panache, all in good fun. Personally, I failed biology. So tell us, what's your weapon of choice?" "My fists," says Panache, holding one right up to Caesar's nose. Caesar takes a delicate step back, turns his head to the audience and stage whispers, "All so meaty." It's all over then for Panache. They show shots of people overcome with hilarity, tears streaming down their cheeks, gasping for breath. Caesar pretends he's trying to continue.